sorry, I can't possibly match last week's feature presentation before I started talking. Pretty cool, isn't it? We'll talk more about it here in a few. Time to get going. Should flags, crests, and symbols raise one's spirit with a hearty +1, or buffs from the grave, a little ancestor magic? When a PCs descend from great ancestors, they may take heart in the family crest, or by the same token, a canine fang passed down from a great-great-grandfather, mother. From these fetish items, the PC may derive a powerful sense of determination, bravery, or daring. I'm not liking this so far. Question: how would you apply a sense of this ancestral power in-game? I know from previous videos that you're not fond of buffs, and it could be argued that a hand-me-down is no magic item. However, it strikes me as a good case for arguing that belief in an object of great personal significance might well convey the tiniest of advantages, perhaps under certain, if not very specific, circumstances. What say you? A little buff now and then? No. No. If that were the case, now we have another occasion for abuse. Every single player is going to come, new player is going to come to the table with a backstory that has one of these. It's just another buff. Now, if somebody came to this and made a big deal out of it, I would see how many chances I could get for them to lose it, and then apply a negative if they've got that much power and so much belief invested in it. But hey, that's just me. I'm a mean old bastard. No, I don't believe in that. That's, to become an adventurer assumes that you are already bold and forthcoming and forthright and have a head on your, well, you may not have a great head on your shoulders, but you have a desire to do something better, bigger, whatever. That ought to be enough. No, Grandpa's saber-toothed tiger, Grandma's shark tooth. Nah, I'm sorry. That's just another buff. And I don't like buffs. You yourself know I don't like buffs. Ahoy, shipmate Tim. I had a terrific game last Monday, playing a female barbarian in a game of the Dark Eye, Germany's best-selling TTRPG. The only trouble was we all got the double entendre disease due to too many dick jokes earlier on. On top of that, most of us were new to the rules. Roll under, roll 3d20 against 3 attributes for some challenges, etc. But by the old gods, it was so much fun. I left house breathless on more than one occasion. We didn't get an inch into the plot over 3 hours, but it was some of the best role-playing I've ever done. That's how good TTRPGs are. You can be satisfied just because you're doing it. Cheers. I couldn't agree more. I've had a couple of great games in years past where I had no idea what was going on rules-wise, but had a good time anyway. I had occasion to sign one of my Lost Adventures books for some friends who were taking it over to England for a friend of theirs who's... Anyway, I was glad to do it. The fun is why we're there. Have a good laugh, because if we're coming away from a game session depressed, we're doing something wrong, or we have a deep-seated underlying issue in our psyche somewhere. People seek diversion. I can't say it in the French. They seek diversion. Diversion gives them pleasure, or at least if it doesn't give them outright pleasure, it helps divert their minds from other unpleasant things. Right? Isn't that why we seek that gratification, those dopamine fixes? Hey, let's go do something fun. And if you're having fun, it doesn't matter if you don't understand the rules at all. I've played in charity games at various cons. I had very little idea what was going on, but by God, we had fun. Pardon me. Pardon me again. Hey, Jim and Tim, love your PSA. Love Jim's sense of humor. He does parody very well. The trade dress on scientific barbarian is very funny. And Tim, the gravitas of your performance was spot on. I'm going to watch it several times before the chuckles fade. Great message, too. Please, Jim, add a link to the description if you release it as a standalone. I'd love to share it around. I hope the Play Different introduction, another comment, to today's episode is posted as its own video clip. It was a welcome surprise. Great work, gentlemen. Thank you. And I certainly enjoyed doing the reading for Jim, and I know he enjoyed putting it together. Yes, it is going to be a standalone. It'll be somewhere. Jim said he's going to set it up on my YouTube channel. Go to the Curmudgeon, look at it, watch it, and share it. Share it all over everywhere. We'd like gamers everywhere to get this encouraging. I feel like I'm giving everybody a +1 on all your next die rolls. Feel good about yourself. Thanks for doing what you do. I wish there was a way to download your memories from the early days of TSR. That way they'd be forever preserved. Well, it's too late for that because some of them are getting murky for me. And that sounds a little more sci-fi than I'm comfortable with. Gonna put electrodes into my head and suck out all my memories. Or maybe we'll do a Harry Potter and pull them out on a wand and put them in a bowl. Be interesting if you could, but probably not a good idea, because if you pulled one out real early, by the time you got older, you would not be remembering it that way, and you go back and look at the way it had happened, and you'd be disappointed because it wasn't nearly as grand as you remembered it. But it is an interesting idea. Okay. So anyway, on to the question. Okay, all right. AD&D core rulebooks give us conflicting information on healing, specifically the 2 passages below. Yes, I know they do. And you touched on part of why that is. Now, we knew deep in our dark little mercenary hearts that were just beginning to grow when we realized we might make money at this thing. We knew that everybody would buy all 3 books. We knew it. So we put in different, that was Gary and Mike. And I'm not blaming anybody. I'm just saying, as far as I know, that was Gary and Mike. They wanted the DM to have some information that wasn't available to everybody else. But we knew that no matter what we said about don't let your players read the DMG, they were going to do it anyway, whether they were going to do it out overtly or do it on the sly. And that's that. See, boom, Knights of the Dinner Table pops up again. That's a problem that B.A. Felton has dealt with several times when they've read ahead in the module and have information they shouldn't have had. Well, how do you play it? Which one? Which one do you like? Do you like the player handbook or do you like the DMG? I like the DMG method because it allows a faster heal overall if somebody mails it. However, that being said, I don't use it because that's not the way I deal with hit points. However, if you deal with hit points in the standard approved fashion, I like the DMG better because it allows healthy people or very healthy people to heal even faster. But that's just my personal preference. And I'm not going to read which one. What it's too wordy to go into what each one says in their passages. It's just that the player handbook one is somewhat slower than the DMG. And keep in mind that when we wrote the DMG, that it was up to the DMG to decide which of these things he would implement into his campaign. And if he didn't want to play it that way, he didn't have to play it that way. Keep in mind when these were written that everything was, compared to today, loosey-goosey as all get out. Just, hey, let's play the game and work it out as we go. What's the purpose? Well, I just described that. I recall listening to Questing Beast reading from the AD&D DMG, wherein it was written that the DM should not allow any player to read it, for it contains information for his eyes only. Yeah, it would be wonderful if we could have actually done that. If we could have established some sort of criteria for credentialing, and charged 4 times more for the DMG, but wouldn't sell it to anybody except they had the credentials for being a DM. Why 4 times more? Well, that's what we'd had to charge if we could only sell that many. Actually, we'd had to charge 6 times more, because if you look at the average D&D group, somewhere between 4 and 6, and only one of them got to buy that. A lot of that was Gary's wishful thinking. Wistful thinking, perhaps. Great video as always. 2-part question. Have you ever played Call of Cthulhu in any of its iterations? No. Secondly, my friend wants to run a game at WizardCon, and we'd be honored to share a gaming table with you. I'd be interested in playing. Thank you for the insight and the videos. No, I'm not into Cthulhu. There's another question later on that I'll get to now. I've seen all episodes, but can't remember whether you mentioned the Call of Cthulhu RPG or not. I'm just curious if you read it, played it back in the day, what you thought of it. No, I didn't play it, so therefore I can't give you what I thought of it. I'm not into Lovecraft. I just do not like Lovecraft. I tried reading it. I'm not into horror as such. I've never been a big fan of horror movies. So it had zero appeal in that regard. And as to the offer to play a game at your table, thank you very much. With the number of games I'm going to be running and my advanced constitutional drain, I'm going to be running 3 or 4 of my own 4-hour games and whatever else they ask me to do, and probably might be able to stop by. But again, I can't make any promises that we might be counter-scheduled at the same time. I don't know. Okay, on to the next one. I just don't care to screw around with these games like Big 5-a-year Pathfinder. Even if I wanted to play them, I don't. I just don't have the time or computer RAM, brain space. I'm a 64K dude living in a 32 meg world. The last I checked with the Book of Giants, Expanded Monster Manual, I counted 5e rules and optional rules, only rules, class of spells, monster, at 2,700 pages. 2,700 pages, he repeats again. No wonder people don't like to DM. People think an AI DM might be the answer. Well, you have a somewhat valid point. If you think that you have to read all 2,700 pages to be a DM, well, whoa up right here, I'll set you straight, you don't. You look at the system that you want to run. To hell with everybody else's system. To hell with the supplements. Start out with the basics. And then decide to go somewhere else later. If you're new to the game, you'll have all you need to deal with doing just that. Learning to shuffle all the responsibilities of DMing is a task. Don't read 2,700 pages. I wouldn't read 2,700 pages of anything. It's crazy. You can't, are you counting every single edition for a second? Okay, all right. But the whole point is that with the new edition, they're supposed to supersede the old, which, as we all know, is a crock of shit in many of the cases of many of the different editions. God knows, there's been some ones we won't even talk about because we don't want to bring them up and perhaps summon up a spirit. So I would like to have you host a Gala Wheel of Blame for my players, but I do not have any social media accounts except YouTube. Okay. That's all. YouTube is if there's a way to privately correspond on YouTube, I'll be glad to. I do not share my email publicly, as you can probably understand. As it is, I get enough annoying spam as it is. I don't need more well-meaning emails, as kind and gently meant as they might have been. I have a Zoom channel. If you can get on the internet, we can play. Now, this is why I think an AI DM is absolutely wrong. In my opinion, it's going to be years before somebody can develop an AI DM. Why? Because you cannot possibly write an answer for every question that might come up. Players are too damned ingenious. And I believe that any early attempts at this AI DMing, I could tie in knots by proposing to do things that nobody in the programming bit had thought of. I'll bet I can. Whereas I run a game for 4 hours online using my Zoom channel, up to 7 players, and let's see, October the 13th, I'm playing with Okinawa again. It's our 9th or 10th time. It's reasonable if you look at what it actually is. I'm very flexible as to the hours, and it's a whole lot of fun. I have run it at conventions in the past. I've had people come back 5 and 6 times at various cons, play the Wheel of Blame, trying to be even more over the top so that I would be unable to hazard the shoals. I'm just cocky enough to say that I promise a unique experience. The capability, in my opinion, for clerics beyond healing is that they can turn undead. That's an incredibly powerful ability. Can bail a party out of very bad circumstance. Clerics are great options, character choice. Yeah, I kind of glossed over that when I was talking about them before. Probably because in my writing, I don't do a lot of undead. I don't use them very much. Again, I don't come from that horror realm of zombies and all that stuff. I have used them, yes, but I don't rely on them heavily. So, yeah, I kind of glossed over that because I haven't had occasion to use it all that often, and the rules on turning undead are a little amorphous and a little too cut and dried. If I did deal with them, I'd modify all those cleric tables for turning and what have you. But, and that's me. Regarding the cleric in the classic D&D sense, such as AD&D, I think it's one of the best classes you can choose. In fact, it's one of the classes I love to use. I think it's flexible, has a nice even mix of spellcaster and fighter. However, saying that, I always like to make my clerics unique in regards to the religion, as I always choose some obscure religion and twist it and make it fun to play them. Well, that is one of them, the unknown, the unsung, I should say. Those of us who have done it know. But that is one of the, I gotta see, when am I in the center here? Oh, I'm in the center there. It is one of the unsung little gimmicks you can have as a cleric. Make up some really bizarre deity or sect or whatever, and then whenever it seems like it would be fun to do, come up with something that your sect demands that you do, or whatever. And again, and some people get a little hinky about this, myself included sometimes. I don't mean to be disrespectful of anybody's belief systems, but I still think you can have a lot of fun playing around with that. Enough said. Let's see, how much more we got to go here? Oh, only one more page. All right. I've always suspected, but never seen it confirmed in print, that the rise of the combo classes, like paladins, rangers, druids, and bards, came about because the concept of multi-classing wasn't present in the game initially, and there were a lot of people playing who couldn't put together 4 players and a DM reliably for a regular weekly session. So if you only had 2 players, one could be a paladin, the other a bard, and you cover the abilities of all 4 basic classes. Okay, no. As to the druids and bards, Gary and I developed those 2, and there were 2 other people involved, whose name escaped me at the moment. Bards in particular is something Gary had been dabbling with, trying to work them out into a class long before any of the other stuff came out. Paladins are not multi-class in that they're exemplars. Paladins do what they do because of who Gary, the Song of Roland and stuff like that. That's where Gary got his inspiration for paladins. And there was a Persian or an Arab knight that was also known as a great paladin who went out and did grand things and stayed true to himself in that. So that was meant to be something that was harder to play, because if you're going to be a paladin, it puts a lot of weight on you. Now, bards, holy Christ, you couldn't even be a bard until you'd already been a thief and a fighter. And it was meant to be hard because they were modeled roughly after the old Celtic and British Isles idea of a bard, a memory keeper, a lawgiver, or whatever, but they didn't just get that job. They had to work their way into it. We decided that was a little altruistic, but if you wanted to be a bard, well, a bard was the happy-go-lucky guy who just kept from pissing off the lord whose castle he was staying in and entertaining, and kept his head on his shoulders. He was part of the classic fool who spoke truth to power. Well, if you're going to be that guy that's going to speak truth to power, you better know how to shinny down a drain pipe. You better know how to pick a lock you've been locked behind. Okay? So to become a bard, you had to have these other skill sets. And we wanted to make it it's damn hard. Because once you get to bard, you're a 1-level bard again. And you got to work your way up as a bard. Now you know these other things. And you can do them. But you got to do bard stuff too. Druids. Again, that was originally, Gary gave me a manuscript detailing druids. I got another idea for a druid class from someone else that was very similar to Gary's. And we looked at the two of them and came up with what the druids were. And again, this was when we were still so naive that we believed people wouldn't cheat on level creep. And it was damn hard to become a powerful druid. You started out a lowly initiate and worked your way up in the ranks very, very similarly to the historic or legendary Celtic druidic standards. Anyway, Rangers. Rangers were a cop-out on Aragorn. He was a sop to throw to the Lord of the Rings devotees and fans. Fine, be a Ranger, be Aragorn, be Strider. But not because the multi-classes didn't exist. Those were individual examples of a specific ideal that Gary fooled around with. Exemplars. After decades of playing this game and cogitating on the nature of hit points, I've come to basically how you see them. In my mind, they represent a sort of X-Man type of resilience. I leave it up to the player how to figure out how this manifests in game. Amazing agility, damage avoidance, Wolverine speed healing, magical aura of damage absorption, spiritual shield of defense, whatever. It's what separates a PC from a mook. Mooks just take actual damage, no special ability. Healing spells and potions restore the supernatural energy, but can't actually fix physical damage. I do allow Cure Light Wounds to fix 1 physical health point per application. Okay. I think I follow where you're going with there. And congratulations, you have a system you enjoy, a system that you use, and if you have players, they have accepted and embraced it also. And that's what good DMs do. They sell their shtick. They sell their version of, hey, let's all get together and play a game. And if their production, their presentation is good, the players will come back. Now, I've got an opportunity coming this winter to convert or to make a whole lot of new players with a program through the local branch of the Cincinnati and Hamilton County Public Library. So that might be fun again to deal with newbies. I don't know what age is or whatever, but it's something we're working on. That would be a blast. Enjoy your vacation. Ketchikan is when I first discovered D&D in '81. I can still remember like yesterday going to the game store and seeing the copy of Chainmail on the shelf right above the Grenadier Minis. And then panning over and seeing this brand new box set with Errol Otis art on the front. Instantly hooked. I can't remember shit, but I certainly remember that day. It's one of those. Everybody has those days, whatever they might be, but there's something so burned into our head that we never forget about it, and that's great memory. And in response to that, it is amazing at just at what just looking at those old box sets or art on the books can do to lift my spirits. That's great because it brings it bubbles up a warm, pleasant memory, and that's what it's about. I don't set out with some great overweening purpose in mind to create memories. I know that we have fun. Memories will be created, each individual remembering different parts of a game. Great. If they remember just one thing in the game and it revolved around a laugh, perfect. Perfect. Couldn't get any better. Couldn't possibly be any better than that. I was asked to inscribe one of my books to someone that it's being taken to them in, I better not say anything. She might. I was going to tell you what I wrote in it. It's kind of my gaming philosophy, but I better not until next week. So somebody in the comments remind me, and I'll tell you what I wrote in there to her in England. And in the meantime, let's see what's going on. Well, there's no big cons coming up. Gen Con came and went. The next con that I'm familiar with, conversant with, is Game Hole in Madison. And that'll be around Halloween, roughly. I don't know where exactly. I quit going. One of the other ones that I don't go to anymore. But it's a good con. A lot of good people go. A lot of good vendors are there. It's in Madison, so I don't discourage you attending by any means. Again, with me, it's just part of paring down my schedule because, shit, I'm 75 now. My head and my mouth still work, but my feet, legs, and hips are falling behind. I think that's all I got. I was thinking today about how you can luck into things. And the honest thing, there's a stretch I drive going to my house that years ago was an infamous speed trap. And they still like to sit out there now and again, but they can't hide in the bushes literally like they used to do. But over the years, I don't know if it's just serendipity or somebody really clever in City Hall. This sign here about the speed limit, that sign about the village limits, and some other sign. From a distance, you can never be quite sure there isn't a cop car sitting there. So, of course, you look down the road and you go slower than you might otherwise. Now, I don't know if somebody in the city figured that out or if it just came at be. Either way, it's one of those multiple mysteries of life. And on that note, I'll leave you at Dodatagovi. Hello, and welcome to my cellar.
He's the curmudgeon who wrote about the dungeons. Now he's the feller, live from the cellar. Talks about D&D and old school RPGs. Still quite a feller, the curmudgeon in the cellar. Last man around when them rates went down. Calling Gary in that Lake Geneva town. Hey Gary, it's an awful mess. Let me edit, we'll have success. D&D and Dragon Magazine. He's the curmudgeon who wrote about the dungeons. Now he's the feller, live from the cellar. Talks about D&D and old school RPGs, but he's still quite the feller. The curmudgeon in the cellar.
Magic missile, it's a mortar shell. Make it hit in the first level spell. Brought psionics to the game to attack that wizard's brain. ESR and fantasy, collection of micro armory. Titan with tramp under a tree,
High as could be. He's the curmudgeon who wrote about the dungeons. Now he's the feller, live from the cellar. Talks about D&D and old school RPGs, but he's still quite the feller, the curmudgeon in the cellar.
Still quite the feller, the curmudgeon in the cellar.
Come on.